Is it all good? You can hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Cool. Well, hello, and welcome to Crypto Sports Week. Today is day one. Today I'm joined by the prolific Emma-Jane, founder of Digitalax and the ESPA ecosystems, and she'll be talking with us today a little bit about ESPA and giving us a glimpse into the world of casual esports. So thanks for joining us today, and excited to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. Yeah, really excited to be on. So I guess I can start by just giving a bit of background to everyone about what Digitalax is, and then what's ESPA, and yeah, what is casual esports as well, because that's a new term in itself. So Digitalax, really briefly, this was a project that I founded last year in September, and we're really focused on digital fashion and how do we bring this into a decentralized Web3 environment, and what does it look like on really growing the digital fashion industry from the ground up and from an industry perspective. So we started that, and we focused a lot on NFTs and using ERC protocol standards to actually distribute digital fashion through our Digitalax marketplace and partner with digital fashion designers globally. And then the next stage was all about how do you actually bridge this into utility and application, which is one of the most important parts. The cosmetic side is great, and it's incredibly interesting as kind of a first use case, but there's got to be a way to really drive a lot of that market demand and concentration into an application utility environment. And this is where we launched ESPA, which really we only went live with around end of March. So still about kind of 5 weeks or so. So super early and new, but really exciting. And what ESPA is, it's the first kind of Web3 decentralized esports ecosystem for players, designers, and developers. And to break that a bit more down, and really what I mean by that, and give a high level of the flow, it allows players to come on our Digitalax NFT marketplace, purchase these really cool digital fashion skins as NFTs, and then take them into different gaming and mod environments, start playing, and when they start playing, their skins that they're wearing actually authenticate them as a player in the game. So that's an on-chain kind of NFT component. And then as they're playing, they're actually getting scored on a leaderboard, which is both an in-game leaderboard specific to the game that they're actually playing at the moment or they're engaging with, and then also a global meta leaderboard, which kind of consolidates across all of the different gaming environments and ecosystems and kind of virtual immersive events that we're bringing forth under ESPA, and scores them on that as well. And it allows them this whole kind of way to go from amateur to pro and actually level themselves up as an esports player. But the interesting thing here is, and really what we're focusing on with ESPA, it's all about casual esports. So a lot of us know the esports industry today. I mean, not only is it incredibly cutthroat like the rest of the gaming industry, but it's very much the value is completely locked at the top. It's under kind of centralized control where unless you stream 24/7 on Twitch, hours a day and really put a lot of your heart and soul into that, and hope, again, that's a lottery ticket in really hoping that you'll actually get picked up, or you kind of have, I guess, deep connections in the industry and with certain kind of routes, it's incredibly hard to make a living as a player in the gaming industry, and not just as a player, but also a developer as well. And then even as a designer, you're pretty much cut out. It's really joining a large studio. You can't be quote unquote a, say, digital fashion or skin designer in the gaming or esports industry today. It's really difficult. So ESPA is all about how do we miniaturize all of those walls, absolutely kind of break them down, and then create this whole seamless ecosystem of value exchange between designers, developers, and players, where they can each plug into this decentralized environment, have skin in the game, and then start being able to actually create their own kind of freedom through that. And that's really being able to create a new sustainability or livelihood stream and channel. So as I said, how that kind of works is these designers design these awesome skins. They listed them on our marketplace as NFTs. And then players can come on board. They purchase those skins in our native token Mona, and they take them into these environments. They start playing. and they start earning Mona in microtransactions as they're actually playing these games, and they're getting scored in a leaderboard and earning winning streaks. And then the profits from the sales of the skins of the marketplace, they actually get distributed between not just the designers designing the skins, but also that's how the players actually get their kind of Mona token or cryptocurrency reward from playing. And then also the developers and modders that are actually putting up their content and integrating with our SDK and on and off chain components, where we take on board all of the blockchain and NFT authentication. It's just kind of a simple SDK that they plug into. And they also get a distribution of the profits from the sales as well. So it's this whole kind of, complete, like, I guess, liquidity transfer and value exchange, but a very decentralized nature. And interesting part of that as well is our Mona token, in a sense that they're gaining, is also a governance within the ecosystem. So as we move towards progressive decentralization, really staying true to those Web3 values, it's all about how they can actually have an active stake in the ecosystem's future. And that's something incredibly, I guess, interesting and unique. But really what I want to touch on more, and hey to everyone in the chat as well, is this idea of casual esports, because that's an incredibly new term. And it's something that Digitalax and ESPA is pioneering. We're at the forefront of, and we kind of coined, in a sense, where, going back to what I was saying about the industry itself today being incredibly cutthroat. The amazing thing with Web3, and again, it's why we really chose to build on a decentralized kind of platform in Ethereum, and then also layer 2 Polygon and Matic network, is very much this idea of how can we actually create better access channels for people, and really enable them to be able to access freedom. And what does that look like? And it's kind of drawing an analogy that I often use of the old Uber model. So not so much Uber as it is today, but very much kind of what they were bringing forth when they first started. And the really, I guess, innovative feature of Uber was very much that they allowed for this idea of people to access freedom. So you can log into your phone, this application, anytime. It can be in the middle of the night. Schedules just completely don't matter. And you go on and you kind of flick this switch. And then as you flick it, you have access to a global marketplace that you can tap into. And whether that's as a driver, being able to actually earn value from that in the terms of, getting paid in fiat, or whether that's as a rider and being able to actually access global convenience and, kind of real-time instant convenience. So it's the same thing that we really wanted to bring into the gaming and esports industry, which really just does not exist at the moment. And if it does exist, and it exists in a way where it only benefits one stakeholder or one player, it's not about really having this decentralized access. Because as we move into this idea of, what is the metaverse, which is a big term that's being thrown around a lot lately, and what does that mean to kind of live in this immersive realm where this, digital kind of physical barriers are broken down a lot. Well, this idea of a player becomes, or being a player, it's not really the idea of, just being in a siloed room in your basement, which is the stereotype that a lot of us think about, or think, geeks and nerds just on a console in a dark room and playing. Well, this idea of isolation gaming really breaks down, and it's really more about how can we actually build social interactions, and not just social interactions, but how do we build out a digital identity or a reputation online as well, and what does that actually look like? So being a player in the metaverse, it's all encompassing. It's, being able to self-express. It's being able to actually build out your full digital identity and in an immersive state online as well, and gaming, being able to go into these different environments and also earn value from that, earn an income, a living, be able to participate in an ecosystem and gain value from that, and not just suck value, but also contribute value back to other people as stakeholders as well, is a really important thing. And so that was really the purpose of ESPA, is having this idea of casual esports, where it's like a plug and play. You can tap in any time as a designer, a developer, or a player, and actually start earning value from that. And obviously that takes time to get to. It's not an overnight thing. And answering, Jasmine, your question there as well, in terms of how has it come to life so far. So when we launched in February this year, end of March, really. We announced in February, but it was about the third week of March that we really went live with our first Among Us mod auction sale. And what that looks like is we partnered with amazing designers in the gaming and modding community who made these really cool Among Us outfits, digital outfits that could then be taken in-game. And we also partnered with developers in the Among Us community and modding community, where we put forth the Among Us Sheriff mod. So players could come on our Digitalax marketplace, and we launched that on Polygon Matic as well, particularly from a sustainability point of view and financial sustainability point of view. And yes, I can actually share my screen. So fortunately at the moment, my internet isn't too good. So I can try getting the mod up. But what I can show you is our marketplace. This is kind of the homepage here. I preloaded some of the stuff, but these are our skins for the Among Us auction. So if I go here, you can see these were the really cool Among Us skins. So these were all designed by Digitalax, also Kodamadachi, who's an awesome modder in the Among Us ecosystem as well, and then also inspired by Charlie Cohen. So she's a top traditional fashion designer from London, and we took inspiration and worked with her on these outfits as well. So we had kind of an auction event where you can see some of these items went for really high value, which was really exciting because all of these profits, again, they go back to the Treasury actually took a 0% cut from this first sale. So they all went back to the designers like Kodamadachi, and she's a young girl actually in Brazil, and it completely changed her life, which was super exciting. Also the developers like Woody, who we worked with, bringing all this content together and kind of having that integration with our SDK and our on-chain authentication system. And then also the players right now who are actually, who have purchased some of these items, not all at these price levels, but we also listed at lower price levels as well, around $9, these different kind of degrees of exclusivity, which I'll go into the functional components of those. But on our marketplace, and they take these in-game and they start playing and engaging in these esports battles, which is something really exciting as well. And I can share some even here. We've been working with a lot of Twitch streamers, and this is kind of one just small bit here, but they're actually playing now these kind of ESPA Esports battles in the outfits, and you can see there's kind of a go to the end here, some of the outfits there. So yeah, it's been really exciting and kind of a whole ecosystem that we're bringing together across, not just really focusing on the blockchain gaming side of things, but very much more the traditional player base and onboarding them into Web3. What does it actually look like to engage in a player ecosystem in a Web3 environment and kind of earn value from that in cryptocurrency? So these are the outfits here. And as I kind of mentioned, the way that we ran this sale was having an auction event and then also an instant buy on our marketplace that allow players still, they're coming on and being able to purchase some of the items now, not the auction items because that finished, but the other fashion skins, and take these in game. But how it works in ESPA is that actually the skins themselves, they're not just this idea of being able to form or build out your digital identity and really have a channel for self-expression, but much more than that. It's also about when we think of the metaverse and this idea of building out immersive digital experiences and this Web3 kind of native sense to it as well. The idea of functionality and how do you actually embed utility within the core layers of a skin or an NFT or a fashion item. What does that actually look like? And what does that look like from a digital fashion sense? So how we've constructed that in the first stages of ESPA is that all of these skins have different kind of actors, I guess, different access passes as well within our ESPA esports system, depending on their rarity on chain. And we have 3 levels of rarity. We have the exclusive rarity, which this is like one-of-one editions of these skins, which is these auction items here. Then we also have the semi-rare rarity, which is of a kind of a larger collection amount. So in this case, it was 64 of each kind of 4 different collections of semi-rare items. And then also common, which was a 128 items altogether of 4 different styles. So 12 items in total. And depending on what a player purchases, whether that be an exclusive, a semi-rare, or a common item, it actually has different access within ESPA Esports ecosystem. So it's not about a pay to win. It doesn't affect anything in game and affect how their gameplay is. But what it does impact or influence on is actually the longevity of a player's access within some of these esports battles. So for those that have the exclusive items, they get a much longer kind of lifetime longevity to engage within this particular Among Us Sheriff mod and go in and kind of have endless esports battles and ability to earn Mono token and those cryptocurrency payouts. And then those with semi-rare and common items, they have to go and recharge at different parts of their gaming experience or the esports experience. And that can look like either purchasing a new item from the marketplace or holding some of their Mono and kind of leveling up in this whole pro league system that we also have. So it's very much this first stages that we're implementing out, but how do we actually embed some of those core functionality and utility layers as well, which is how holds a lot more weight than just as I'm kind of speaking about it now within the ESPA esports ecosystem, but really about, as I was kind of saying, when we think about going forward and into the metaverse and engaging in these immersive realms, that fashion and the way that we self-express, it really will have more of a functional component and different access points and different utility and use cases. It won't just be this idea of how do we build out a cosmetic representational portrayal of ourselves. It's self-expression and it's esports. And the reason why we really took the idea of an esports route and again bridging that into Web3 is because there needs to be a way to have these different utility layers where it's not just like gaming today. And this is why we as well took a very kind of intentional route of not just going as I'd say a digital fashion project, or that we could have integrated, say, with platforms like Decentraland or Crypto Voxels or even other Web2 kind of providers and said, okay, we'll just come in and we'll negotiate some deal where you can use our NFTs or our digital fashion. We really wanted to build out a whole incentive model and have this kind of broader forcing function that generated value for people as they plugged into our ecosystem. And we're still at the early stages. So as I said, we just had our Among Us launch and sale, and that's really exciting because we've still got a lot of players engaging in that within our Discord, where we're even running and coordinating a lot of these tournaments and working with streamers on Twitch to get more of a distribution and I guess a more player base as well, because that's a huge part of this. It's not just about, okay, we're creating a new kind of industry or ecosystem, but it's also about how do we actually use gaming to onboard people into Web3, into crypto, into kind of building out these heuristics, because it's incredibly scary with someone, who has, if you have no background in crypto, that all you're seeing is these random kind of news segments of, okay, a $69 million NFT auction or BTC's, at all-time highs, or Ethereum's at all-time highs. But what does that actually mean, and how can that create value within my own life? And putting in front of them DeFi kind of heavy financial stuff doesn't really do the trick for most of us. For a lot of, the general population out there, gaming and being able to, I guess, engage in play is, and particularly casual play, which is really what ESPA is all about, coming in anytime, anywhere, and breaking down those barriers around scheduling. That's a really unique opportunity that we have. And so that's been such an exciting part to kind of share more of the journey of what this has looked like for Digitalax. And since we kind of started announcing on this in February and really building out this strong roots within the gaming industry and the modding ecosystem as well, what does that actually look like? And how can we really, start creating impact in these players' lives? And it's been incredibly, satisfying experience, I would say, with even just the players that we have now and how excited they are about to see where this goes, but how this is already impacting them. And it's not so much just them being able to gain some cryptocurrency and maybe swap that out and have an impact in fiat within their lives, but it's more than that, because they're starting to become more curious about, well, what the heck is decentralization and what is crypto, what is Web3, how does that relate to me, and how can I actually start building a future around that? And that's something pretty amazing, because when you see people where it's not just like an ask, where you're kind of forcing them to be like, okay, we've got to learn about this because this is why I believe it's great. But when they come to it on their own terms, that's when it really has the most impact. And that's really what we're using ESPA for as well in this bigger mission. How do we bring back to the open source community? How do we bring back to Web3 and decentralization and the hard work that was really done, since 2011? How do we then contribute to the next part, which is really what NFTs and gaming and digital fashion, the intersection of all of those can do. It's a new way, it's a more, I guess, an easier onboarding for a lot of people out there. So that's been something really exciting. And then to answer this question from Desmond, do you see a role for big sports like NFL, NBA, helping to demystify the crypto world to onboard people in the same type of way? Yes, I do. I think that there's a huge part there. And I mean, even we see with NBA Top Shot, it's a kind of different mechanic, but it's onboarded a lot of people into even just having interest for what is crypto and how do I engage with it. So I think that gaming and just gamification in general and gamification models, how do we actually embed those into whatever systems or kind of mechanism design or that we're actually building out, is a really important part and something that is overlooked a lot. And I think that's why DeFi as well had such a big impact when we think about DeFi Summer last year, why that had such a big onboarding and impact with so many people, because it did actually bring in these kind of underlining gamification, in a sense, to so many of those protocols that released. When we think about staking and yield farming, it really has a lot of that embedded within that. But the, I guess, more traditional gaming side, when we talk about really being a player and being able to go in and have that immersive experience, is something so much more, because when we think really about the future, it is so much of having these digital realms being built out and having this multi-dimensionality where we can go in and have this digital persona and then live that out in these different immersive environments. We really need that part of it to be weighted a lot more. And that's really what we're focusing on with ESPA. And I guess another kind of unique part to all of this and what we're pioneering is just how do you bridge Web 2 to Web 3? And what does it actually look like in a decentralized commercial environment? Because kind of what I was touching on before, there's no point in kind of thinking, okay, you can go to some of these bigger Web 2 studios today. Like even if you think about Epic Games, we think about Fortnite, we think about Rockstar, all that, or Valorant, and you can't just go in and say, hey, knock knock, accept my content into your game and then work with this system, because it really doesn't make sense for their Web 2 business model. And that's just because of the way that the Web 2 ecosystem is built up. It's built out to be extractive. It's built out to be concentrated, the value within a lot of these larger and centralized providers. And then whoever gets to control those choke points, in a sense, they get to extract the value. And it's a purely extractive model. But when we think about Web 3, it highlights something completely different, and it highlights anyone being able to engage in that value exchange layer as long as they have a Web3 enabled device, which is really what ESPA is doing as well. It's putting Web3 enabled devices in the hands of so many more players out there, and a completely different base where usually crypto wouldn't really make that much sense to them. But now it's like, well, it has some gamification around it, and it's actually helping them level up through this whole amateur to pro roadmap within our ecosystem. So that's something really interesting that we were bridging out with ESPA as well, is how do you actually create an incentive model that makes sense for these Web 2 providers to bridge into Web 3 and do it in a way where, from a technical point of view, they don't actually have to take on the load of learning Solidity or integrating smart contracts or NFTs into what they're building, because that in itself, knowing how much Digitalax we pride engineering, we have a full house engineering team. It's incredibly difficult. It's not a simple process of you just go and write some code and deploy it and then edit it later. There has to be a lot of planning around the architecture, and to do it right, the knowledge base of the developers and those developers that really know what they're doing. It's absolutely extensive, and it's all encompassing. And to even find those developers that have that really strengthened background. You can talk to any project out there, and it's really difficult. And even I kind of just actually released an article a few days ago about the Digitalax engineering team and what we've built it to now from the start. And it's a really strong development team now, and it's something super excited when we think about where we're actually taking this into the future and the engineering innovation required to get there. So that's another part of this, is how could we take that on as ESPA and have this more business commercial incentive model, that when we go and we work with these modding community, which is very much we're emphasizing and bringing up, because we see that as a key part of the metaverse and breaking down gatekeepers, centralized locking of value. How do we allow the independents to really be able to gain value and access throughout all of this? It's a super important part that we highlight that, and we focus on that from the start. and we give them a platform to grow and scale. So having that whole incentive where it is from a developer's point of view, we're not affecting their current in-game economy, but we're an additional layer of utility that they can plug into, and then they can have that additional access for their players and novelty and content generation as well, which is something, really that we're wanting to highlight and focus on. And then to answer this next question, do you see your ESPA characters and utility going into non-ESPA spaces anytime soon? That's another really important point. And when you think about the metaverse, I mean, that's what it's all about, right? It's all about how do we have it as an open system where you can have as a player or a digital identity on there, this ability to seamlessly transfer across these immersive worlds and have that interoperability. And there's two kind of answers to that question. I mean, number one, it's, I guess, more of an opinionated answer is what does Digitalax or ESPA, what do we see? And it's something that we would love and we like, and we would never stop that. If can be more adoption and more use cases for not just our skins, but just the players in general and novelty for them to be able to interact. It's something that we want to promote and make sure that we support in whichever way we can along our roadmap as well. So definitely that. But I guess that also runs into another question, which is often, it's said by a lot of us in the industry, but it's very easy to overlook, which is the technical side. How do you actually really have a seamless metaverse? And the technical layer is a big hindrance to us actually achieving that. Where do you go to have these kind of constant standards that can go across all of these platforms? So say if I was a player and I had those Among Us outfits like I showed, and then what if I wanted to actually take that into Minecraft? Or take it into a higher fidelity environment like, say, Fortnite, or then something completely different like a pixelated Pac-Man or a completely immersive VR, AR hybrid environment. You can't just take that content or that outfit that you're seeing and just drag and drop it and expect it to work. There's the game engine itself that it has to be compatible with, and it has to be compatible with actually the physics environment and how that's playing out. And a lot of that is even, hard-coded in a sense within a particular environment only to work and be compatible within that particular game. So if you take your Fortnite skin into Minecraft, it just won't be recognized in a sense. So that's another big challenge as well that we look at with ESPA is how do we actually tackle that, and how do we tackle it with Digitalax? Because it comes back to, if you really want to have self-expression within the metaverse, then you can't be blocked off by these environments. You can't say, okay, well, you can self-express within this environment in this room, but as soon as you go out into this one, then sorry, it doesn't work. That won't be a great user experience. And I know a lot of us kind of won't accept that as well. So it's a really big part of this is how do we actually innovate on the technical front, which what we're doing is we're actually building out the first kind of dynamic file format. It's called Dash, and really it was conceptualized and conceived to be built for the metaverse. When we think about the future and having this cross compatibility and interoperability, how do we do that? And we don't see it so much as it being just one standard that everyone adopts, because there are common 3D file formats out there today like FBX and OBJ, and they do have a large adoption rate throughout the 3D and game development community or just general development community. But that has huge hindrances when you think about fidelity and you think about maintenance of information. How do you prioritize actually deployment of information into an application environment? What actually is retained and what is lost? These systems, they're static. They don't actually have a way to recognize, okay, because I'm going into this application environment, I should prioritize this for the fidelity level or this information. There's no structure around that. But what Dash is doing, it's very much how we can actually take and feed information from the application layer and directly, I guess, have that communicate with the framework of the content and how that's being developed. And so opinionated logic can be formed, bridging the application layer and the file layer kind of together. So when you create a file, say a Fortnite, skin in a sense, and if you want to take that into Minecraft, well, how can the Fortnite skin start communicating with the Minecraft environment, or that content communicate with the Minecraft environment and say, okay, because I'm going into here, then opinionated logic should be formed about my output environment, and I should go through these series of transforms to actually get it there in a fidelity that is true to the creator's intent and then also make sense within the broader scheme of what the application environment I'm actually deploying into. So what should I actually retain? And then what maybe for a more efficiency perspective should I be able to compromise on? And that's really what Dash is all about. It's this highly dynamic ecosystem from a technical level of how we create a file format that can truly have interoperability across these different environments and allow that, I guess, more seamlessness of self-expression. So that's, I guess, the much bigger picture. But then to answer Jose's question, what product feature that you guys are working on are you most excited about for the next 6 to 12 months? Anything that are not announced yet? Really exciting and a really great question. And yes, there's a lot of kind of exciting stuff that we haven't announced yet, and we will be, but it's just about, how do we navigate timing as well as keeping transparency to the community, and then also everything else that we're weighing up. But the big part here, I would say, in terms of the next 6 to 12 months, and really what I like to describe people, and often when I'm describing Digitalax to people, they are like, Emma, what the heck? Like, I cannot even understand what even this is. Like, are you just kind of going on a rant, like, which is kind of what I'm doing now? Or what is this all kind of converging to? And what are you trying to get at here? Because there's so many parts that you're doing, and it's how does this all actually fit together? And the reason why that is, and it's very intentional, at Digitalax, we never just do anything for the sake of doing it. We don't just go out there and say, hey, this looks like some shiny toy. Let's just dedicate some resources to this to kind of gain more clout as a project, or gain a following base, or be relevant because of what's maybe in the news at the moment, or certain like keywords or hashtags on social media. When we do it, we really put a lot of time and effort into thinking, how does this impact everything else that we are building or reinforcing? And not only that, but what is the actual overarching mission that we're trying to achieve? And how do we break that mission down into the most fundamental base principles and all those problems out there that we are facing along the way in trying to get to this, complete end goal? How do we break those problems, those ideas into these base principles? And then once we have those core components, then it allows us a lot, I guess, in a lot kind of a better and easier way to identify, okay, what do we actually need to do to achieve that? And what does that take from really an ecosystem level, which is always what we take, is an ecosystem approach. It's never about coming in as a siloed brand or a siloed project or a company or a business in a sense. It's more about being the infrastructure and the protocol layer that then everyone else can come onto and start generating value for themselves. And it's not this extractive model. So what I would say, to kind of keep it relevant as well to Crypto Sports Week, the most exciting feature in a sense for the next 6 to 12 months. And when you say 6 to 12 months, although we have a long-term vision, which, it spans hundreds of years, and that's, life expectancy kind of included in that, is there's being a startup, we kind of don't think within 6 to 12 months. We have the overarching goals, but really I probably should tell you more within like 1 to 2 to 3 months, because in terms of execution, that's really where things are played out. And being in crypto as well, everyone knows that a second in the normal world is like a month or something in crypto. The kind of geographical time physics warp is very different. So 6 to 12 months in crypto is probably like, 6 to 12 months, sorry, in the real world is like a decade in crypto. So I can't give you everything for that, but what I can say is really what we're focused on and what we have been for the past kind of, we only launched in September. It was initially when I conceived all the ideas, but then the real, I guess, proper launch to the market wasn't officially until December. So we've only kind of been live properly within that and kind of having, I guess, a larger and extended team as well for about 4 months, or, part of 2020, the end of 2020, and then start of 2021. So when I look at that and kind of what our focus was for those past few months, it was really about building out the core infrastructure and just going into building mode. And how do we kind of get these core parts of our ecosystem out, which to start with, it was the digital fashion side, the marketplace, the supply chain itself, which I won't go into all details, but it was really about how do we use NFTs to enable that and a whole decentralized digital supply chain. And then it was moving into ESPA, which is very much the application layer, and how do we provide a business and decentralized commercial incentive layer around that as well. And what does that look like? And that's the whole esports ecosystem, and operating as kind of a layer 2 on all of the gaming VR content already out there, and how do we plug into that? And then it was Dash, the technical layer itself. How do we innovate on that and actually not just kind of run a Red Queen's race where we're optimizing on things that do not work? How do we just, strip everything down and really say, well, someone needs to actually do this right, and what can we do in our part to that? And Dash is kind of the contribution to more that engineering and technical layer. And then what we also just kind of announced more recently is 2 other parts to our ecosystem, which is our Drip line, which is this hybrid digital physical NFT line, which is going live as well this week. And that's really about how do we onboard more people into our ecosystem. But what that will allow is people to actually buy a physical fashion item that then will also have a digital counterpart that then can be taken into ESPA and our esports platform as well. So this whole seamless identity. And then on top of that, we also just announced, probably I think it was about maybe like 6 hours ago, the launch of the first digital Metaverse Magazine. So this is really amazing as well. We're bridging together all of these interesting topics across gaming, modding, fashion, NFTs, crypto, Web3, esports, to bring it all under one place, to have this highly kind of concentrated environment of high quality content where people can go to start onboarding into this space and really be able to encompass what it's all about and how to actually start interacting with all these components and actually earn value for myself. So we have a lot of amazing creators that we've bridged together as well to contribute to that. And Digitalax has been a really core engineer and contributor behind the development of all of that. And we've got some cool NFT decentralized unlockable subscription drops that provide a new access channel for creators and game content through that as well. But to kind of answer then the next question, are you looking for any sports partners, designers, brands to partner with you and Dash to prototype with? Or what brand partner, artist would you dream as for a partner? Another really great question. And I would say really there is no dream partner out there. And, often I kind of get asked that question a lot, like, would you love to partner with a large, game studio or something like that? And although I guess that's something incredibly exciting, and I would never, cut myself off so short to say that, we would never do that or anything like that. But really what Digitalax is focused on is how do we build out the grassroots to enable the independent scene as well, which is something super important. We don't want to just build, be kind of building the same thing that was already built or just bridging legacy systems. It's more about how do we actually completely innovate and provide this ecosystem where anyone can plug into. So when you talk about sports partners, designers, brands, definitely. And we've been, because of the whole NFT rush, there's a lot of amazing, very large, that all of us could name NFT, just traditional fashion brands out there that have been wanting to talk to us and saying, well, how do we actually bridge into NFTs? And what does that look like? And what does digital fashion even mean in gaming? Because, even last year when I was starting this, if you think about Web3 NFT digital fashion, that's like on the very bleeding edge. And before, just digital fashion was, a bleeding edge kind of component of the broader traditional fashion industry and, as well. So it's kind of a very, very, very much on the bleeding edge of the bleeding edge of the bleeding edge, I would say, that we're operating with. So when it comes to that, like even Dash, and I won't go into all the details of that, but the way that we're building about that is how do we keep it Web3 native? How do we keep it decentralized? And how do we actually enable this whole authentic developer community to be incentivized to contribute more to the engineering of Dash and kind of create these upgradable modules that can be plugged in to allow for these different transforms and greater and a higher fidelity and operability of this content across the different environments, because that's something that we see as well, which kind of, bleeds back into your question of the partnership side. Well, it's more that we can create the infrastructure so that anyone can come and, it's not just, I guess, the partnering from the traditional sense, but use it and engage with it and gain value from it, give value back to it. And this is really what the interesting thing with Dash as well is, to kind of keep that authenticity, is that we do have a whole kind of crypto native incentive model built out that allows when developers actually contribute and physicists or engineers contribute to these kind of mathematical models that actually do the transform set of, say, taking a 3D content from Fortnite into GTA. There's a lot of math that actually goes behind maintaining that fidelity and actually transforming it correctly into the new environment, and physics principles as well that need to be considered. And how do we actually allow engineering from that? And this is what we see with why, looking more deeply as well into why interoperability isn't great within the whole gaming and esports sector, or just in general as well. When we think about development and 3D and cross-application environments, is because there hasn't been an incentive for people to get into like file format engineering. If you think about, I don't think too many kids grow up saying, hey, mom or dad, I want to be a file format engineer, because not only that, it's incredibly highly specific, but it's kind of sounds, quite nerdy in a sense. And the community, it's a lot of legacy players in that community. It's not really an exciting field, I would say, to go into. I mean, engineering rocket ships is much more exciting than file format engineering. So, but it's so core when we think about just anything really scaling and actually us really achieving that from a technical level. It all goes back to the file layer. I mean, it's like when we think about, to kind of give an analogy, if you think about breaking down, anything that exists within our world, well, we often go back, to the core elements. You can think of, the periodic table of elements, then we have atoms, then we can even go deeper into like quarks and gluons and what that gets into. So the file layer is like the fundamental stripping back everything else. It's really stripping it back. So we have to, as a player in this space and really wanting to lead and push everything forward, we've got to address that as well. If we don't, we're kind of creating a facade on one level, but we're not actually addressing some of these underlying caveats or problems, which just comes with growing pains as we move into these different environments and industries. So that's a really important thing with Dash as well. And the file format is how do we actually incentivize people to go into and great minds throughout the world to get excited by this and think, wow, if I'm actually contributing to this, I can see the value from it. It's not just some random piece of code or a mathematical formula on a page that's just going into thin air. So it was really about how do we enable that as well, which then incentivizes a lot of great partnerships through designers, sport partners in that, to actually come on and build within our ecosystem, because we have the underlying tech there as well that they can leverage off, and it will all be completely open sourced, so anyone can come and build and engage with it and continue to optimize on the work that we've done. And then another question from Jasmine, so where can people go to check out your new magazine? So that's actually launching on Friday, which is super exciting as well. So it will be a new URL, which we'll launch throughout our Medium channels, our Twitter, our Discord, our Telegram. So as long as you're kind of just on one of those, then there shouldn't be any problem, and you can kind of just see it, and it'll be very kind of clear, and you can go on it. And again, the content itself is completely free. So I actually designed about 80%, 85% of the pages myself in-house, to really just put out there that Web3, it's all about that creators can come from anywhere. And this is really what we're pioneering as well. It's not like in Web2 where you maybe had to go and get a certificate on paper to be recognized within something. A gatekeeper had to kind of tick you off to say, yeah, because you did this, this, and this in your past, or because you did that, now you can be recognized. Web3, it's all about, that doesn't matter anymore. If you're willing to contribute, create, put in the work, put in the effort, then you can come from anywhere. And, for the first time, it's also about your physical location really being detached from the reality that you can experience online or through these kind of immersive metaversal environments too. So the magazine is all about really inspiring more creators to come into the space. I mean, it's targeted very much at not just the current crypto and Web3, NFT, fashion, gaming, music enthusiasts today and all the crossovers between that, but also very much targeting at users out there who have no idea what is going on, or time very much moves geographically, and how do we get people more excited about what's going on, just at least coming into familiarity with these terms, because onboarding is a huge problem at the moment, and it's a problem that must be tackled and addressed. So having really high quality content where we highlight not just top voices within the space at the moment, but also what we see as, unseen creators out there or undervalued creators even. How do we give them a new platform for distribution, and how can we kind of bring forth amazing topics and have it as an immersive kind of metaversal magazine, which is what it's all about. It can be kind of viewed and interacted with in different modems, and it's really rich content. There's kind of, it's not your typical magazine, it's interactive. It also, links out to other creators, really, as I said, providing a completely new distribution and access channel for them. And a really kind of unique part of all of this is, as I said, the content is completely free for the magazine. Anyone can come on and engage and read. And as we have issues released, we'll be doing a monthly release of issues to highlight more creators. We're really going to be having it as a very much a collaborative community side as well, where we bridge content and ideas from everyone in the space to be able to use it as this platform itself. But we're also introducing a new publishing model. And through that, it allows for these people to actually kind of subscribe to NFT unlockable content. So the magazine is free, but you can actually purchase in these NFT unlockable bundles certain content from within the magazine that certain creators have made and contributed to. And instead of like a usual publishing model, where as a creator you will probably get nothing if you're featured in a magazine, or you actually have to pay to be featured. Instead, through these unlockable content drops, they will actually get a distribution from the profits as well. Do that. So it's a completely new publishing model that we're also bringing forth, and kind of access channel for them. So it's not an auction, it's not a typical drop, but it is another way that we're able to contribute to the space and reinforce what we're doing within the ecosystem and onboarding more people, but also reinforce what all the other great creators are doing out there to really make everything that we keep talking about an actual reality that people can interact with. So that's something super exciting. So yeah, that will be going live on Friday, and I did the first announcement about 6 hours ago, but there's going to be plenty of announcements leading up to that, so no one misses out. But the magazine, to kind of touch on as well, that's called DigiPhysi. So it's this whole idea of kind of taking out the digi-physical terms and modding them in a sense to, I guess, reinforce what all of this is about, which is, how do we cross people over from the physical into the digital, whether that be into full immersive digital or some hybrid sense of it. But kind of going back, Jose, to your question as well, that's something that I'm super excited about, because not to go too off topic from Crypto Sports Week, but it really does go back into, which I'm sure everyone on Crypto Sports Week, they have this same mission of how do we onboard. And that's why, I guess, sports, esports, and how that fits into crypto, it's such a great channel for onboarding, because it's not some scary financial thing, but it's something that so many of us can just relate to in each of our lives. And this is what the Metaverse Magazine is all about. It's about giving more content out there for more people to relate to, more people to understand why this ecosystem is so important, that they become evolved, why they shouldn't get left behind, why they should, I guess, take a stand a bit as well. I mean, it's kind of a revolution sense, and we need to start taking a stand against these gatekeepers that are out there. And that's the another bigger thing with Digitalax and ESPA. It's all about gate makers. How do we enable gate makers? And this is kind of the metaverse as well. It's all about miniaturizing wars. It's those portals that we see in sci-fi fantasy, where the medium itself of going from one reality to other is like this fluid. That's really how I visualize the metaverse as well, is having it as a fluidity between different opportunities, instead of these absolutely insurmountable barriers that a lot of us face today in terms of how do we get from A to B, how do we level up, how do we go from amateur to pro as a player, as a gamer, as just an individual within our lives. It can be incredibly difficult, because there just isn't enough routes out there to actually achieve what we want to set out to do. So Web3 and having better onboarding, in a sense, it's all about breaking that down and really allowing for that. So the Metaverse Magazine is super exciting, because this is something much bigger than Digitalax. It's bigger than ESPA. It's bigger than all of us, and it's just pioneering for that same mission. So yeah, that's kind of it there. I know there's only kind of 10 minutes left, so if anyone else has any questions, I can answer any of that now, an open book. Otherwise, I can continue to kind of rant and babble on about the rest of the stuff that Digitalax is doing. But they're the main drops upcoming. I mean, maybe something that I will highlight on just in the last kind of point of stuff, which is something really exciting as well. What I was focusing on and highlighting before is really the engineering side of all of this and how that feeds into ESPA as well. Because when we think about really, pioneering just crypto in general, but, bridging the interoperability between esports and crypto as well, and from a player base, the engineering side is incredibly important. And through ESPA, what we're continuing to do is how do we actually combine the on-chain and the off-chain components, and how do we actually reconcile those? Because not just from a UI perspective in terms of like what a player or user can interact with, but particularly from the back end, there's a lot of work that goes into that. And I can say that our devs, they work just around the clock, like literally 8 days a week, 36 hours a day, to push out there some of the engineering and the innovation. It's a constant dynamic process of keeping up with the broader crypto community, and how do we maintain and stay on top of that. But then more than that, how do we keep innovating through Digitalax? How do we not fall into this gray zone of kind of just accepting that, okay, we've done some good stuff, we've done something interesting, we can stop there. I really, I'm excited because we always have this bigger mantra of just keep innovating, keep pushing, because some great stuff will continue to come out of that. So with ESPA itself, being able to, I guess, start by creating that layer of having this whole authentication system through the skins, bridging that functionality, and then onboarding these Web 2 kind of game devs as well into the space, is something exciting in their own right, because they're able to learn about NFTs, they're able to see, okay, get some more interest about, okay, well, what is this weird stuff that Emma might have reached out to me on Discord and sent me a message or an email and said, hey, do you want to be a part of this? How can it actually start making value for me, or how can you even start building in the space? Because that's a super, important thing as well. We want to contribute back and grow more of these like Ethereum quote unquote developers. I know that's kind of too narrow for what it actually is, but I mean it more from the sense of what an Ethereum developer represents, which is all about the authenticity to the developer community and authenticity to the broader mission of open source, to Web3, to decentralization, to unlocking access and value through their code, in a sense, to everyone. So how can we inspire more developers like that? And how can we just open these conversations and these communication channels? So I guess they're the most exciting parts of what we're doing. I know that there's a lot there, and I might have just babbled on out into the distance, but I'm super passionate about this space. I mean, as a founder, it's living in it 24/7. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Not to kind of get philosophical in the last kind of 5 minutes, but it really is that, because the mission that we have set out to achieve, it's so much bigger than, just I think all of us. And being able to see that come to light, fruition, execution in a sense. I mean, not that we don't get it perfect at all every time, and there's so much that we have to learn from and iterate, and it's just a continuous iteration where our hardest battles we have definitely not come across yet, and we're going to just continue encountering them, but it's super exciting because it gives myself purpose and mission in what I want to achieve, not just individually, but how can we completely grow out the ecosystem. And yes, ESPA hyped Woody, and for those also in the chat as well, Woody is actually the amazing dev and modder behind the Among Us Sheriff mod, which is being featured now, and kind of all the players in the tournament. So that was an amazing kind of piece of work there too, Woody, and a lot of fun. So I think I'll kind of stop there unless anyone has anything else, but I think I've kind of said most of the stuff that I wanted to say. It was really just about what we're doing and what we're building. And yes, there's a long way to go, but we're on a good track. And I think that crypto, we're in a really great time as well. It's not the 2017 bubble that was experienced with the ICO phase and a lot of kind of scams, which gave crypto very bad rap. I think we're very much out of that. And even when people call this NFT space a bubble, I really strongly disagree. It's not a bubble, it's a rush. Definitely, you know, there was a lot of liquidity that came into the space, but the oversupply side is not there, because when you really look at what NFTs do, or what crypto and Web3 does, the layers that it goes into, it cannot be an oversupply, because it's feeding fundamental needs. It's like now when someone posts a new website on the internet, we don't go and say, you know, hey, that was an oversupply of content. We take it as, okay, extra value being added to the ecosystem, which is the same phase that we're in now. So yeah, I'll stop there. But thank you everyone so much for tuning in. And if you want to kind of get engaged or involved with more of what Digitalax is doing, or you're excited about it, you want to even kind of contribute or just like say hello and keep up to date, the best place is definitely our Discord channel. So we have two. It's the Digitalax one, which you can find on our site, and then also our ESPA one, because yeah, we split it up because the ESPA one's quite chaotic with all of the playing and tournaments and other streams that we have going on, and the Digitalax one is really where we keep up to date with the community of the broader aspects of all of our ecosystem. So I definitely encourage you, please join those and reach out or kind of get more involved. But otherwise, I will stop it there. So yeah.
Beautiful. Well, amazing. Thank you so much for all of those details. It sounds like you guys are building some really amazing stuff.
No, thank you.
Yeah, really glad to hear that you're thinking about the community and the projects in the way that you are, way more holistically and longer term approach, which I think is really definitely needed.
Yeah.
But yeah, very grateful to have you on. And looking forward to everything that you guys are going to be doing in the future.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you. Bye.
Beautiful. Yep. Bye.
Bye.
And so that wraps up our first day interactive. Stay tuned. We have another event actually going live here in 3 minutes on Clubhouse. Will be a talk with Jason Maiden from Fear of God Athletics, talking about shoe and tell. So please stay tuned for that. Thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day.